How you doing out there? How you doing? It's Frankie Russo show, pre-show number 68. You know, this thing's driving me crazy, yo. I'm going crazy all week thinking about this thing. Like from discussions of last week, do you believe the Obama administration is a criminal enterprise? And the more I look into this thing and the more I read about this thing, the crazier it gets. I just don't know how the Clinton Foundation doesn't know that the Levy Foundation is a terrorist entity. As you know, I'm moving. So I'm going to quickly. Obama, illegal president, fraudulent draft card. These are in my two pre-shows that are on my YouTube, Frankie Russo video YouTube channel. I got all this Senate Resolution 511, fraudulent draft card, illegal president. Senate Resolution 511, the birth certificate made John McCain eligible. It's not the birth certificate that's the issue with Obama. It's his fraudulent draft card. United States Commander-in-Chief with a fraudulent draft card. That's crazy. Then he made a memorandum of understanding with the Clinton Foundation, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Cheryl Mills, Chief of Staff of the Secretary of State's office, Rosa Jackson, and Huma Abedin. And then we got this other entity. This is an illegal entity because bomb is illegal. Even though they went through the agreements and all this stuff, they didn't follow them. And it all based on all the experts that I've been reading. Whenever there was a discrepancy, it fell on the Clinton Foundation, not the United States government, not the American people. They didn't have final say on this thing. The Clinton Foundation had final say on all this. It's insane what happened with this Clinton Foundation and this memorandum of understanding between the Clinton Foundation and Obama executive branch. Insanity. But the second part to this puts it over the top because we got the Iranian government with Preet Bharara filing a complaint, the judge ruling in favor of Preet Bharara, the district attorney of the Southern District. This is in my pre-shows on my Frankie Russo video YouTube channel. So we got all this going on. This is a terrorist entity, and according to Preet Bharara, money went from 650 Fifth Avenue building in the United States, America, New York City, through these front groups to the Iranian government. Iranian government, based on the ruling by Catherine Forrest, $105,000 went to the Clinton Foundation. Whoop-de-doo, Frankie. Who cares? So what? Why bring that up? Well, the more I look into this thing, not only did $105,000 go from the Iranian government to the Clinton Foundation, and, you know, like I said, I don't know how the Clinton Foundation didn't know that the Levy Foundation is part of this terrorist entity that owns 650 Fifth Avenue building, which was deemed by the Justice Department, the Treasury Department, the FBI, and court papers and the judge's decision that it is owned by the Iranian government, and this is a building within the jurisdiction of the United States. And so we seized it and forfeited over to the families of the victims of terrorist attacks of September 11th, the unfortunate attacks, and the families of the Marines that were killed in the Beirut bombings. That's what happened there, right? So with all this going on, I kept looking and looking. Now I just Judicial Watch, WND Daily, Jerome Corsi, Rachel Effenfeld, Weekly Standard, a law review journal article from the Lewis and Clark Law School in Oregon, and that's where I'm headed. Because I got $1.4 million, according to Rachel Effenfeld, president of the American Center for Democracy. Also in the American Spectator article, $1.4 million is going from the Levy Foundation to the Blind Sheikh's Mosque and court papers. So right now, according to the American Spectator, the public tax records of the Levy Foundation reveals $1.4 million going to the Blind Sheikh's Mosque in the late 90s. So some claim it's before the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, when the Blind Sheikh was the mastermind of this 1993 World Trade Center bombing, or it's before. but it's all pointing toward the Blind Sheikh's Mosque in Brooklyn, Al Farouk. Okay, so that's where I'm headed, and this is where this whole thing gets really, really crazy. And I talk about it last week, but I want to go over it again because I believe it's statistically significant and it's crazy, you know. So basically, according to this Lewis and Clark Law School journal article in their law review, it talks about the prosecutions, the intelligence gathering before 9/11, the unfortunate attack of September 11th, and after the attacks of September 11th. So basically, and they use the examples. For example, there was a ring, a Brooklyn ring, an illegal an illegal ring in Brooklyn that was transmitting money across the world. And according to the FBI, it was all coming out of the mosque, the Al Farouk Mosque in Brooklyn, the Blind Sheikh's Mosque. Now, an informant was involved that was working with the FBI. So information was provided by this informant. It led to an intensive 6-month investigation of a Brooklyn ring led by Al Rani. The FBI. I'm reading right from the article because it's so intriguing because I'm looking at the picture of a deli grocery store, and the reason why all week I'm just saying, yo man, I'm walking down the streets of Brooklyn, I'm passing these deli and grocery stores, and only God knows what's really going on in these places. It's insanity, you know. It's really mind-boggling. Who thinks of this stuff? You can't make this stuff up. It's crazy. The investigating agents, the FBI agents, used Title III wiretaps, physical surveillance, grand jury subpoenas, undercover operations, and 5 search warrants to indict approximately 20 individuals for unlicensed money remitting. And they showed the deli, one of the storefronts in Brooklyn, associated with the Al Rani illegal money transmitting ring. Now, most of the defendants in his Al Rani case pled guilty. The publicity generated by disrupting this massive Al Rani ring in Brooklyn prompted an informant to connect with the FBI. Okay, and this informant was directly working with an FBI agent and offered information about this Brooklyn terrorist financing and more, right? So the FBI sent the informant to Yemen because what's happened over there, according to this informant, he claimed to have information about this Yemen Sheikh, who is involved in supporting the jihadists around the world. Now, this agent, the FBI and the informant, right? He sent the informant to Yemen on 3 separate occasions to gather information from the Sheikh, this Yemen Sheikh. On the first trip, the informant asked the Sheikh about people who provided weapons to the jihadists. The informant returned with several names. On the second trip, the FBI instructed the informant to gather information about people in Brooklyn who were involved in funding terrorist organizations. And the FBI instructed him to start to lay groundwork for a future undercover operation for introducing the idea of a rich American Muslim who wanted to donate money to support the jihadists, but wanted to make sure his money got into the right hands. So after the second trip, the informant reported that this Yemen Sheikh claimed to have met Osama bin Laden twice. We don't know how true that is. I don't know if that's statistically significant or whatever. And that the Yemen Sheikh also received money collected at the Blind Sheikh's Mosque in Brooklyn. and that the Yemen Sheikh will be willing to meet with this Fugazi, false, rich American donor in Germany. And the informant returned with a list of names written by the Yemen Sheikh of people whom he claimed could be relied on to send money from the United States to support terrorism. Insanity. They showed a picture of one of the places where they were transmitting money from a deli grocery in Brooklyn. Insanity. And they show here a government exhibit showing the handwritten list of names of persons identified and being able to send money from the United States to support terrorism. And now it starts to get crazy. The FBI started investigating this small ice cream shop in Brooklyn. You know, this is what totally got me like, what's going on over here? Like, I'm walking down the street. It's the summer. I'm on Flatbush, Atlantic Avenue, whatever, hanging out, and I see an ice cream parlor. I walk into an ice cream parlor. I mean, this is a scenario. I mean, I'm going off a little bit off the beaten path here, but it's crazy. This is what's going through my mind all week. I'm walking down the street, Flatbush. I'm thinking, what, Flatbush, Atlantic Avenue, hanging out. It's hot out. I want to get some ice cream, hanging out, having ice cream. I order a sundae. I get a frap, hot fudge frap with walnuts and freaking, I don't know, peanut sauce or whatever, like a banana split or something. I'm hanging out eating it, and in comes 4 dudes showing me their badge in the ice cream parlor. I'm saying, what the hell's going on over here? Yeah, here's a sign here. Yeah, FBI. Who's the owner of this establishment? Do you know? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm eating my sundae, you know? This is crazy, right? So they subpoenaed the store's banks, this ice cream parlor that I'm talking about, and revealed that between 96, I said this last week, and 2003, the bank accounts of that tiny shop that has been used to funnel over $20 million overseas. Crazy, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 accounts going through the French ice cream supermarket, this little ice cream parlor, totaling $21 million to overseas accounts in Jordan, UAE, Egypt, Turkey, Yemen, Thailand, China, Japan, Indonesia, India, Italy, Holland, Switzerland, Germany, France, the UK. Based on this development, FBI they started, a body wire and talked about sending money they met with the cat that owned the ice cream parlor. So the informant went with the body wire to the ice cream parlor. And he had already sent the money and he's being watched. He conveyed to the informant. And basically, right. However, the owner of the ice cream parlor suggested an attorney met to send him abroad with individuals who travel with diplomatic passports. So now this is another angle here. This is like unbelievable, man. So now, because the owner of this ice cream parlor found out that he's being watched and he couldn't send any more money because the Yemen Sheikh is being watched very closely by the FBI, he told the informant. And this apparently there were arrests. There were the Al-Rani arrests, and the comment about the Yemens being watched closely in the context of money transmittals appears to be a reference to those arrests. So it's shifting now from the ice cream parlor with $21 million from over 10 different accounts to over 15 different countries throughout the world, through this one ice cream parlor in Brooklyn. It's crazy. I'm like, What's going on over here? Right? I'm eating my frap in the freaking ice cream parlor. The FBI on this tip about the Sheikh Satur, according to the now we're taking this another step further now. This is all within the confines of the Blind Sheikh's mosque. Because what happened before I moved to Sheikh Satar, the Yemen Sheikh that was affiliated with the Blind Sheikh's mosque was found guilty with a jury trial, on funneling $20 million to Al Qaeda and almost $5 million to Hamas from the Blind Sheikh's mosque in Brooklyn. Crazy. This is going on. 2003, the trial went on to what? 2003, 2004. They had whatever. They had an appeal or whatever. Found guilty. Found guilty. Crazy. So now there's a shift. So the FBI, the tip that apparently the owner of this ice cream parlor didn't realize it, but he was tipping the informant, suggesting an alternative method of sending money abroad with individual travel with diplomatic passports like Sheikh Satur. So the FBI, to gather information on Sheikh Satur, he learned the secret. He was also a Yemen, he's from Yemen, and used a diplomatic passport to travel in Brooklyn in late 1999 for a fundraising trip. Wow. He was in traveling in 1999, according to this law review article. He was staying. It took him from mosque to mosque to make fundraising speeches, and took him to the ice cream parlor to send funds to Yemen. Ate meals with them, took him home every night, finally dropped him off at the airport at the end of his trip. So just to have an understanding on this whole thing, I'm going to go over this one more time. Sheikh Satur, now they're looking at it from another perspective. The informant was in the ice cream parlor, the owner with the ice cream parlor. The owner of the ice cream parlor tipped them that an alternative method of sending money abroad was individuals who travel with diplomatic passports, like Sheikh Satur. Sheikh Satur is a Yemen. He's from Yemen. So in the FBI, he used a diplomatic passport in 99, he went to Brooklyn. Satur, he's under surveillance of the FBI. This FBI was surveilling him. And the entire 3-day trip, the FBI revealed, was almost constantly in contact with this man named Mafali. Picked him up at the airport, picked up the Yemen Sheikh Satur, picked him up every morning from where he was staying, took him from mosque to make fundraising speeches, took him to the ice cream parlor that was the $21 million account that was sending money to 15 countries overseas to send funds to Yemen, ate meals with him, took him home every night, and finally dropped him off at the airport at the end of his trip. Satur later, after leaving New York, traveled to Italy. Listen to this. Right, he traveled to Italy. Wait. My computer got a little crazy on me. Traveled to Italy. He attended a well-known radical mosque in Milan, made a fundraising speech there praising Osama bin Laden, calling for the support of Osama bin Laden and the jihadists. With this information, Satur had been making similar fundraising trips to raise money to support bin Laden in terrorism, and that his escort, Yemen Mafalani, would know exactly what Satur had been saying and doing. So the FBI interviewed Mafalani, who claimed to have had only minimal contact with this Sheikh Sator, which isn't true. Mafalani's statements were thoroughly contradicted by all the physical electronic surveillance that have been conducted by the FBI. Lying to the FBI as a federal offense, Malani was eventually arrested, tried, and convicted. Significantly, the evidence used to convict Malfalani, who was the escort for the Sheikh Sator, just to everybody to clear it up, consisted largely of the surveillance conducted in the late 1999, including the wiretap intercepts, right? So thus, the Mafalani criminal prosecution in 2004 that the evidence meant never have been used or thoroughly analyzed. The investigation of the Yemen Sheikh continued with the third trip to Yemen by the informant. So now we're going to the third trip. So just not to confuse everybody, all right, because I know it's a lot of information. We're in the Blind Sheikh's mosque. Right now, we're in the late 90s to the early 200s, 2003, 2004. The Sheikh has already been found guilty. He's in jail for life. So there's new sheikhs, the Yemen Sheikh that comes in contact with this Blind Sheikh's mosque that's running through this Blind Sheikh's mosque as well after the Blind Sheikh. He just bombed, the Blind Sheikh has already bombed the World Trade Center now. And this is all this activity going on through the Blind Sheikh's mosque. So the Yemen Sheikh, the informant with the FBI, has a third trip to Yemen. And the FBI instructed the informant to tell the Sheikh that the American donor needed proof of the Sheikh's involvement in supporting terror. He returned with 4 receipts from charity organizations that the Yemen Sheikh claimed were front organizations for Hamas, which is a designated terrorist organization. He also brought a video of a group wedding that has been sponsored by the Yemen Sheikh. The Yemen Sheikh had invited the informant to videotape the wedding to bring back to the American donors proof of the Yemen Sheikh's efforts to prepare the youth for jihad. Crazy. During the wedding, the leader of Hamas in Yemen made a speech praising the Yemen Sheikh for sponsoring the wedding and announcing the success of a Hamas suicide operation in Israel, which had taken place in Tel Aviv earlier that day. The attendants responded by erupting into chants of God is great. I guess Allah Akbar. I don't know. Meanwhile, the FBI gathered other evidence of the Yemen Sheikh ties to terrorist support, including Al-Qaeda, which is also a state sponsor of terror. Wow. So now, interestingly, before I get into all this other stuff, the FBI procured other information during this Yemen Sheikh, who's affiliated with the Blind Sheikh's Mosque investigation in other parts of the world. Address books containing names and phone numbers. And this Yemen Sheikh had indicated he was willing to travel to Germany to meet this Fugazi American donor that the FBI, right? So during the meetings in Frankfurt, Germany, where this Yemen Sheikh was to meet the American donor, obviously the American donor was also FBI and was with the FBI. So during 3 days of the meetings with the 2 informants, the Sheikh discussed his past and current ties to Al-Qaeda, Hamas, and bragged about being bin Laden's Sheikh and religious advisor, and stated he had provided financial aid to bin Laden and agreed to use American donors' money to support any organization that promotes jihad. Crazy, right? Now, I just want to finish this last. With this evidence, the Yemen Sheikh was arrested and sent to the United States and tried and convicted for violating Title 18 United States Code Section 2339B by providing material support to Al Qaeda and Hamas, and he was sentenced to a term of 75 years. Crazy. Crazy. So the reason why I'm talking about this is manifold. You know, I'm winding down now. I'm going to continue my investigation into this whole Obama administration, the Obama executive branch of the United States government being a terrorist, a criminal enterprise, a state sponsor of terror. Basically, they're a criminal enterprise. They're taking money from the Iranian government, which is sponsoring terror throughout the world. And quite frankly, I find it hard to believe, based on President Clinton's 1999 signing of the Omnibus Bill, Section 117, which enables families of the victims of the terrorist attacks of 2001, the unfortunate attacks of the World Trade Center of September 11, 2001, to recover some sort of damages, some sort of money for their unfortunate loss of their loved ones from these terrorist regimes. And then the same swoop of the pen, October 21st, 1998, he enacts Presidential Determination 99-1, which is a directive by the president to waive the requirement of 117 under national security. So now he's blocking the American people from recovering. So he's defending the assets of the terrorist regimes. It's crazy. So still sanctioned, 655th Avenue sanctioned, terrorist entities, front groups to the Iranian government. The Clinton Foundation takes money. Not only that, the money, the foundation, the Levy Foundation, that gives them $105,000, they give $1.4 million to the Blind Sheikh's Mosque. And then we find that after the bombing of 1993, the World Trade Center, and the Blind Sheikh was found guilty as being the mastermind of this bombing plot and is in jail for life, there's a Yemen Sheikh affiliated with the Blind Sheikh's Mosque that's funneling money from the United States through this ice cream parlor in Brooklyn and a deli grocery in Brooklyn, according to the FBI investigations. The ice cream parlor funneled $21 million from 10 different bank accounts to 15 different countries throughout the world for terrorist attack, to support terrorism. Crazy, right? Unbelievable. So my question is, the federal law states all the person for this transaction from Clinton to the Levy Foundation, from the Levy Foundation to Clinton for the $105 million, for this transaction to be illegal, to be prohibited, the person has to know that the Levy Foundation, in other words, President Clinton has to know that the Levy Foundation is a terrorist entity. How does he not know that? How does he not know that the Levy Foundation is a terrorist entity? Money laundering, obstruction of justice has all been proven in court papers and a judge's decision. I don't get it. And then you got the directives that the president came down with, so he's well aware of these sanctions and how this thing maneuvers. And then you got the executive order by President Bush, 1322-4, which prohibits terrorism within the United States jurisdiction, obviously, and it prohibits persons or organizations exchanging money with a terrorist entity and or helping a terrorist entity to evade sanctions. It's prohibited. It's illegal. So I don't understand how he just didn't know, the Clinton Foundation, President Clinton, that the Levy Foundation is a terrorist entity. And then we go in deeper and we find how this Levy Foundation is sent $1.4 million to the Blind Sheikh's Mosque. So that's even further proof that this Levy Foundation is financing terrorism. The Yemen Sheikh was found guilty by jury to funneling over $20 million to Al Qaeda and $5 million to Hamas. Title 18, Section 2339B, material support for terrorism. Al Qaeda and Hamas. Crazy. Craziness. I'm going to continue this. I'm just blown away because all week I really wanted to go over this again. I'm going to continue going over this because I think it's. Then we get the Sheikh Satur, who's not the original Yemen Sheikh, but he's the side Yemen Sheikh that's also involved in this thing. But the original Yemen Sheikh #1 is the guy that I'm focused on. So, it's crazy. This Blind Sheikh's Mosque, I'm going to focus more on that because I got the Obama administration of Blind Sheikh's Mosque, and this I feel is where everything went on, is in the Blind Sheikh's Mosque. In the late 80s, the bombing in 93, and now the financing of terror through this mosque and other mosques. It's crazy. And it's my understanding, if I'm not correct, what I find crazy is New York City, the mayor of New York City has recently, and I think the courts even came down. I got to find out more information on this because I saw an article where the courts came down saying that because they appealed the surveilling of the mosque, because we have to surveil the mosque to know what's going on. And there's somewhat sort of discrepancy on this because I think the city has stopped surveilling the mosques, if I'm not mistaken. I think I'm pretty certain. I think I'm pretty accurate on that. I think recently, within the last 6 months, the city of New York has stopped surveilling the mosque, the NYPD. I got to check that out. But I'm going to come back next week with that information, as well as more information on the Blind Sheikh's Mosque. Then I'm going to bring in Mohammad Zarif, the foreign minister of Iran, the Iranian defector that claims that, because I'm bringing his full photo, because I'm getting ready for the June 30th announcement on this the Iranian nuke deal, and I'm going to bring it all forward, and I think I'm going to show with some statistical significance. This is my theory. This is not proven. This hasn't gone through a smell test or any sort of government agency or anything like that. But I believe that that the United States government is a criminal enterprise and is a state sponsor of terror, basically, and financing terrorism and enabling and at least Title 18, Section 2339B, material support, at least. Okay, so I'm going to see you at 106 tonight. I just want to also, before I go, I want you all to join, sign up and join America's team, RussoNation.tv. You got to join this thing. Go to Facebook.com/Frankie Russo Show and join America's team. Discounted membership fees, discounted events and merchandise, interesting news updates, and it's a membership. It's an enterprise, and I'm going to move forward with much veracity. America's team, you know what I'm saying? We got to bring this country back. We got to restore the greatness of this nation that we love, this way of life that this great country, America, provides us. We got to be vigilant in supporting the freedoms that this great nation, America, provides us all. So thank you so much for the Frankie Russo pre-show number 68. I'll see you all in a few. At the top of the hour, 106. See you in a few. Yeah.